Hey guys, Jay here. Welcome to Models Memories Weekly, episode 98. Models Memories is a show about nothing and is filmed in front of a live studio audience. This is a show where I talk about my painting, modeling, and wargaming experiences from the week. Now you might be thinking to yourself, Jay, you put out 3 YouTube videos a week. How could you possibly have more to say? Well, I do, and here goes. This week, Games Workshop showed off a couple of new things. There's a new game on the horizon, and a new mini is back from the dead. But first, let's look at Games Workshop's new stuff. GW has shown off the 2023 event exclusive miniatures. You'll be able to buy these at certain events this year. And I don't know if anyone needs to flock to these events to make sure that they get these miniatures. They're fine, but I don't think you're not missing that much. One is a alternate sculpt commissar, and the other one is like a barbarian dude. A cool barbarian dude, but you can get barbarian dudes other ways. But let's take a look at that commissar. So this commissar is based on an old sculpt. Games Workshop is currently selling the old sculpt because you can still order some of the old commissars that came in metal or resin. And it's the one that looks a little bit like Harrison Ford. He's got one pistol out. He's got one hand behind his back holding his book of rules and prayers. And he has his power sword stabbed into the rock and disconnected from his arm. And what I like to think is you can't pull that sword out of that rock now unless he plugs it back into his suit and powers it back on. It's like if because lightsabers, like the blade is made of light or whatever magic Star Wars lightsabers are made out of. And so it would just like keep sinking through the rock, but his sword is now just a normal sword perfectly fused into that rock. And so I like to think that like he'll like challenge other guardsmen to pull his sword out of the rock, and then they can't do it. And then like he makes fun of them for not being able to do it. But it's a very cute sculpt. It's kind of fun, but it's pretty darn close to the commissar that maybe one day we'll be able to buy. Weirdly enough, the new commissar that they showed off a while ago did not become available to pre-order when all of the other Imperial Guard releases became available to pre-order, but that one's pretty good too. It's just a lovely little trench coat, a very anime-inspired sword, and his pistol held off to one side. Like it's the event exclusive one and this one are almost identical. And I don't know if either of them hit quite as hard as the old plastic commissar. The old plastic commissar really is a cool model. It's kind of a departure from like all of the other commissars that there've ever been, but man, I love his weird little sword. It's not like a traditional knight sword, and it's not like the more anime-y big knives that the new commissars have. I love his plasma pistol. The scarfy thing tied at his waist, his humongous hat. He's just decked out to the nines. That is the Officio Perfectus Commissar, is a really cool commissar. I like the stoicism of the new one. Like the new one I think feels a little more commissary, where this guy feels like a hero. And commissars are not heroes. I mean, in the world of Warhammer 40,000 they are, but commissars are just the nastiest, awfulest thing. And arguably, we learned from the Cyphus Cain novels that if commissars were just way more reasonable, they would actually get a lot more accomplished. Because even though Caiaphas Cain he considers himself like a huge loser and a coward, he always gets the job done and ends out on top, where the other commissars who are like, never retreat, never disobey orders, never show any fear in the face of certain death, it usually ends up with certain death. And that's why like the attrition rate for Imperial Guard is like most Imperial Guard don't live, 2 hours after the start of a battle? Like they'll lose millions and millions and millions of Guard, and then it'll be considered an overwhelming victory if they manage to take out the pesky little Tau who are minding their own business. Like commissars are awful. And the new commissar model is very nice and it's fine. I don't think you need to really go out of your way to get it. And the barbarian, it's fine. It's a nice little model. I like the 2 little axes. I like his armor. I love his perfectly sculpted leg muscles, but it's all right. I definitely wouldn't stand in a line. Last year when I was at Adepticon, it was crazy how many people were shopping at the Games Workshop booth so they could buy regular Games Workshop kits at full price. And there was some event exclusive models last year, but it was just like a Space Marine. Like, it wasn't anything super exciting, and I couldn't believe it. Like, you could just go to any of the other dozens of booths that are selling the same Games Workshop models for a little bit of a discount. It was crazy. Like, the Games Workshop booth was swamped at all times for the entire event. It was wild. Man, Games Workshop, they really do have a little bit of magic that they sprinkle on their stuff. And Games Workshop stuff is very good. But yeah, new Commissar, it's pretty good. New Barbarian, it's pretty good. But speaking of things that are very good, I didn't even notice, but when all the new Imperial Guard stuff became available to pre-order, an old mini was brought out of retirement and taken back into service. The new Primaris Psyker. And no, not that Primaris. The Primaris Psykers are the battle Psykers of the Imperial Guard, and they've been called Primaris Psykers forever, for like the entire time of 40k, before the call showed up with his pesky Primaris Space Marines. This model was from a Blackstone Fortress expansion, and it was available in a board game that Games Workshop made called Combat Arena, and this model was going for big money on eBay. Also, like, if you ever want like some really good Games Workshop minis for a really good price, go track down some of like the Cursed City and Blackstone Fortress minis, because the ones that have no real significance to 40k or other games go for like $15. They're really cheap. So, but this model was not going for $15 because everybody wanted this miniature. And so it's really cool to see this model brought out of retirement and put into the normal range. It's such a good looking model. I really want this model. It's like, not every single miniature that Games Workshop makes perfectly tells its story, but I think anybody would look at that and be like, yeah, that is like a weird psychic person, like a psychic person ready to do battle. I love her glove with like the metal caps on the fingertips, her little halo of glowy orbs. Like, it doesn't make any sense, but it's like, yeah, her brain is magically powerful. Like, it's really tells that story. And it might just be the angle, but her head looks maybe a little swollen. It could be that she has a swollen head from the power it takes to contain the psychic energies of the warp, and it could just be the angle and the way it's painted. It's very smooth. I'd be tempted to put a little bit of texture on that. And the psychic staff with the double eagles and the eye and the pupil of the eye is a gemstone. It's just a lovely miniature. And I wonder if we're gonna see any other other discontinued Games Workshop miniatures come back from the dead, because there's some really cool stuff in Blackstone Fortress. It'd be great to get the Zotes back, because I didn't get to buy one the first time, and I really want to get one of those Blackstone Fortress Zotes. Ooh, or the Amble. How is the Amble not a regular miniature that you can buy? They could even just make like a single card with some rules on it for like an Amble ambush that you can use in regular 40k. Because how much fun would it be is like, oh yeah, we're gonna play with the Amble for this game. So every turn, roll 2d6, and if the first dice result is a 6, then you look at the second dice result, and that tells you exactly which objective marker to put the Amble on. And then all of a sudden you just have to deal with that. It'd be so much fun. And everybody loves the Amble. I cannot believe how quickly the Amble came and went for Blackstone Fortress. But yeah, Primaris Psyker makes a return. And I guess we're just gonna go with, these are Primaris Psykers, but there's also an entire faction called Primaris too. But there's totally separate things. Don't even worry about it. It's Games Workshop and names. But speaking of Games Workshop, who cares about Games Workshop? Because all this week I have been staring at the new game. Atomic Mass Games' Star Wars Shatterpoint just went available to pre-order, and I think it's a little early. There really should be some gameplay footage or information available before you purchase the game. The game is almost certainly going to be fine. It looks like probably close to a clone of Marvel Crisis Protocol, and I've heard nothing but great things about Marvel Crisis Protocol. But it does seem a little, not suspect, but just a little bad to let people pre-order, like, if you buy every single thing available for this game, it's like $500, and you don't know anything about how the game is played. I think that they are gonna be doing demos at Adepticon, and I'll be very excited to try it out. And if they have demos, I mean, they're not gonna sell it at Adepticon, but if they do, I'll be there, and the Star Wars minis will be there. And I don't know if I'll have enough self-control to not just purchase them on the spot. But speaking of self-control, the prices for some of these things might help me a little bit with that self-control, because it's not the cheapest game out there. I think you do get some decent bang for your buck, but it's not a slam dunk. Like, I think $100 would have been a slam dunk, give it to me right now. But the 2-player core set is $165. And that does come with lots of miniatures and some terrain, which is nice. I like that it comes with terrain. I like that the minis come on sculpted bases, so I don't have to figure anything out. I mean, obviously the option is there to just cover those bases up with some newer, other different basing schemes, but it's a nice little thing. I do like when the miniatures come with sculpted bases. And you get a lot of stuff. For the good guys, you get Anakin Skypotter and Ashoka Tano. You get 2 Phase 2 clone troopers in Commander Cody. And then you get Bo-Katan and 2 generic Mandalorians. So basically this box is built around the Siege of Mandalore. A little bit. I mean, Ventress wasn't at the Siege of Mandalore, but you get a good amount of heroes. And based on some of the expansion sets that you can buy, it looks like you get full armies for your faction. It depends on how factions work. It might be more like Marvel Crisis Protocol, where you just hire members of your team. And so you don't necessarily have a force or a faction as much as you have a team. And there's certain events like in the Star Wars, Clone Wars, where different characters were kind of like allies of convenience. I mean, there was a point where Count Dooku and the Skypotter and the gang had to work together to get out of a sticky situation. And so it could be really fun to actually have like the different characters all jumbled up together, having to work together. And it gives you a lot more different ways to play. On the bad guy side, you get Asajj Ventress, a super tactical droid. You get double-ended lightsaber, scary face guy, Darth Maul, and some 3 generic bad Mandalorians. And one of my favorite things is the 3 battle droids on a base. Genius idea, because battle droids suck. They're really, really bad. They're just stick figures with guns. But 3 on a base probably provides a good enough challenge to make them a threat. And I really, really like that idea a lot. Ventress is awesome, one of my favorite characters in Clone Wars. Clone Wars is the best Star Wars out there. It's an anthology series, and what's great is that there's not one main character. Like, I really got tired of Star Wars Rebels kind of quick because I hate Ezra Bridger, and every episode is about Ezra Bridger, this annoying little kid. But in Clone Wars, there's like 9 different main characters, and every now and then you get episodes about them. You get whole arcs about different people. Like, Ventress has some of the best episodes, and she's just this generic bad guy who barely existed in the movies, actually didn't exist in the movies, but she gets a lot of stuff to do in the Clone Wars cartoon. And I was a little bit annoyed that they didn't stick perfectly to the Clone Wars cartoon art style. But actually, I heard some other people talk about it. I think Deck from Corner Case, he talked about, he had a really, really good idea of why they don't perfectly resemble the characters from the cartoon. And that's because this game is going to get expansions after expansion after expansion. And eventually they're going to run out of Clone Wars characters, and they're going to have to do characters from the normal movies. And if the Clone Wars characters look like weird cartoons and the movie characters look real, the look will be off. So having everything kind of a halfway between Clone Wars and live action is probably a really, really good middle ground to make sure that everything looks really nice together. But I really like these miniatures. I think the 2-player starter set with the train is gonna be lovely. I can't wait to demo this, and I can't wait to paint some Star Wars guys that are like in a 40mm scale, and they're really nice and big, and there's plenty of room for me to get in there with a paintbrush and do some serious work. But speaking of serious work, they're gonna have some serious expansions available with some not so serious names. They're kind of joke names, and I love it. The bad guy Count Dooku squad pack is called the Twice the Pride squad pack because Count Dooku is a really prideful guy. Then you get Count Poo-Poo, 2 IG-100 Magna Guards, and Jango Fett. I'm gonna have to get this box because I love the IG-100 Magna Guards so much. It's one of my favorite battle droids in all of Star Wars. And the good guy starter set is called Hello There Squad Pack because it comes with Obi-Wan Kenobi and 2 Phase 2 clone troopers and Cody. And now, one thing that I don't love about these expansion packs is that they are $50 a pop. Pretty steep. I get that these are bigger figures and they look they look lovely. That's a little steep. Hopefully you can get these things for a little bit of a discount. I think $40 would be the upper end for me, and $50 is a little bit too much, but the models do look lovely. Now, speaking of things that look lovely, but man, the High Ground Terrain Pack. It's over, Anakin. I have the high ground. It's called the High Ground Terrain Pack. It's amazing. $75 doodles. I mean, it's a playset, and it's a lovely playset. Really nice playset. 75 buccarinos. That is a lot of money. The terrain looks good, but how much is terrain gonna factor into this game? Is this gonna be something that really, really changes up your play experience? Is this something that you really can't get from red Solo cups and Amazon package boxes that are on your kitchen table at home? I don't know. It's a little steep. Now, I really do appreciate that this is very, very lore accurate because there's no safety rails on the terrain. And that's a very Star Wars thing. The other terrain pack, the ground cover terrain pack, has just smaller stuff. It doesn't look like it comes with all that much. Like, the high ground is a full Barbie Dream House playset. Like, I see why it's expensive because it's a big old building with a lot of bridges and walkways and stairs and ladders and antennas. The ground cover terrain pack feels a little Like, $75, how much of that $75 am I paying for some rocks? You know, if they were all cool stuff like shield generators and like moisture evaporators would have been really cool. Just the classic weird kind of dice-shaped Star Wars crates and boxes would have been great. Some sort of a destroyed vehicle would have been lovely. A land speeder would have been great. Some rocks. I can get rocks. I don't need to spend $75 to get rocks. But the other things seem very cool. I like the little parked speeder bike. Obviously, the $75 is totally justified by the inclusion of the Gonk droid. So, although it only comes with one. It only comes with one Gonk droid. Maybe I'll have to break out the Oyumaru and do some casting of that Gonk droid because I want a fleet. I want a whole fleet of Gonk droids. And kind of an interesting thing that they decided to do, Atomic Mass Games has early release Padawan Ahsoka Tano. So Ahsoka's probably one of the most popular Star Wars characters of all time, and the core set really hooks you up because it comes with Season 7 Ahsoka. Coolest Ahsoka. Maybe Mandalorian Ahsoka. Mandalorian Ahsoka's pretty badass, but Season 7 Ahsoka is also really badass. Do people really want Padawan Ahsoka? Like, if you already have Season 7 Ahsoka, Padawan Ahsoka is just little girl Ahsoka. It's not, I don't know. It's a weird little perk to try to be like, you better pre-order this sucker right now if you want early access to Padawan Ahsoka. Though one funny thing that I was thinking about, because Padawan, I mean, it's fine. Everything's fine. But I would love, this seems to be that these expansions are going to be 4 characters like together, and it'd be really fun to do a little kid pack. So to have Padawan Ahsoka, little boy Anakin, baby Boba Fett, and because the battle droids are 3 to a base, just have 3 generic Star Wars Padawan or Jedi Padawans on one base. And that kind of happens all the time in the Clone Wars cartoons, where the Jedi Padawans would need to be defended or saved or rescued, or they're still little Jedi children. They can do some damage. It'd be great to get a little base with 3 little. Then you could recreate Order 66 when Anakin came to the Jedi Temple and slaughtered all the younglings. You could have a game mode around Anakin and the clone troopers having to get at these little Jedi. Maybe this is too dark, but I think that would be a really, really funny pack. A little kids Star Wars pack for the children characters. Child Greedo. Does anybody remember the deleted scene from Star Wars Episode 1 of The Phantom Menace where Anakin beats the crap out of baby Greedo? And then Greedo's friend is like, you better watch your temper, Greedo. Somebody named Han Solo might show up and shoot you in the face. I think that's the dialogue from that deleted scene. But yeah, a little kid pack for this new game would be wild. It would be wild. So much fun. But this Ahsoka Tano is not, I don't think it's a freebie. It's just going to be, each store is allotted a certain number of these early release Ahsokas, and you can order it alongside the rest of your stuff. But it's going to be just a normal thing that's available forever. And that's actually an important thing to bring up for all of this Shatterpoint stuff. It's going to be a full game available for years, so you don't necessarily need to pre-order it right this second before anybody has gotten a chance to play it. The game will almost certainly be fine and fun, but I don't know, maybe wait for it to be available, because maybe the Hello There pack kind of sucks. And you're like, oh, I'm not going to buy that. I'm going to buy the next set of models that came out instead of that one, along with the core set. Maybe don't, or maybe just I can skip the terrain pack that comes with rocks. I don't necessarily, or maybe there's going to be some crazy rules in that box where the rocks are the greatest thing of all time. And you can do some things like when Rey lifts all the rocks to save her friends and to help them get them out of the base. Probably not. It's just going to be rocks. But yeah, I feel like if you were planning on ordering Shatterpoint, but you're like, I don't want to have my money tied up in this pre-order for the next 4 months, you don't have to. It's gonna be on store shelves. You're gonna have plenty of opportunities to buy it later. Pre-orders are always a weird thing, because pre-ordering only makes sense maybe if it's an indie thing and there's not necessarily gonna be tons of this stuff available, or you want it's almost like a Kickstarter at that point where they're like, I've got this great idea, but I need lots of cash to make it happen. Then pre-ordering makes sense, but why pre-order a video game that you can just buy it eventually? It's just, yeah, pre-orders are weird. I don't quite get it. Clearly this game is done. I mean, they may not have all of the inventory available everywhere in the world yet, but we could just wait for that to happen. I don't know, it's odd. Games Workshop has the fakest pre-orders of all pre-orders to ever pre-order. They have it all ready to rock and roll. And they're like, we're gonna let you pre-order it. And then next week, it's gonna be fully available everywhere. And it's it doesn't make any sense. And it's not like pre-ordering guarantees you a copy, because they can just sell out. And then you have to wait, the 180 days for them to make more so that you can actually get your thing. Pre-orders are weird. I don't understand pre-orders. I think the only time I ever pre-ordered anything was Todd's costume was building a bunch of Han Solo pistol parts, and I pre-ordered his pistol parts and then waited 6 months to get my Han Solo's blaster parts. Pretty sure that's the only time I ever pre-ordered anything. Yeah, pre-orders are dumb. Maybe just don't even bother. But the game does look really fun, and I'm really excited to paint up Ventress and the battle droids and Anakin's Sky Potter. And you know what? It'll be fun to paint some larger scale clone troopers, because I've painted a bunch of tiny Legion scale stormtroopers. They're hard to paint. They're really hard to paint, but these are going to be big and crispy. I wonder what material they're going to be made out of. Hopefully plastic. I've gotten some of the newer Legion miniatures that are in plastic, and they're immaculate. Beautiful, almost no mold lines, very, very crisp detail. They're manufactured in a slightly harder plastic than Games Workshop makes their miniatures out of, and it's just nice. It's just very nice. The PVC sucks. Is fine, is what I'll say about the PVC for Star Wars Legion. It's acceptable. But the plastic is really, really nice. And it seems like there's no difference in price between the plastic units versus PVC units for Star Wars Legion. So, I guarantee this isn't the case. I'm pretty sure that the core set models are plastic, but I'm just remembering I really wanted to get into the Fallout Wasteland Warfare game, I think by Modifius. And I had the core set in my shopping cart on Amazon. And I don't know why, but I thought, let me just read reviews. I'm just hyped on this game. I want to delve a little deeper. And every single comment was, the models that you buy separately in the expansion sets are beautiful, crispy resin. The models that come in the core sets are PVC plastic and they suck. And I looked at some of the user images and they really, really sucked. They used the exact same masters as the resin, but resin is a very different material to PVC. Like Reaper does a really good job with their PVC because they know how to make a miniature that will work for PVC. You know, everything has to be a little bit thicker, a little bit chunkier. You can't have those knife edges. But if you just take a model that was meant to be cast in, hard resin, and then you make it out of PVC, everything becomes wonky and rubbery and bendy and not perfectly formed. It's so upsetting to clean mold lines off of PVC because you have to carve them. You can't really scrape them away. Yeah, PVC is junky, but resin and plastic is lovely. I mean, maybe not Games Workshop resin, but everybody else's resin miniatures are lovely. And speaking of things that are absolutely lovely, that's right, our Patreon. Over there, we have new terrain packs available every single month. This month, we have the Goblin Rave Cave. Yes, Goblin Rave Cave. A lovely, dank, underground cave with stalagmites and stalactites, and it's some of the biggest terrain we have ever created. Also on our Patreon, we have one extra episode of Eons of Battle every single week where we take a look at our viewers' miniatures and give them some ideas and critiques of how to improve their painting. We host live Discord hangouts and painting guide PDFs. And we have a new tier where you can get your name on one of my Black Templar Space Marines and you can join the crusade. And if you're planning on picking up any new miniatures, you might want to shop at Valhalla Hobby. You can use our code EOB23 to get 5% off your purchase. I'm pretty pumped for Shatterpoint. I think it looks very, very cool. I might pass on Padawan Ahsoka, but everything else looks really, really neat. Definitely not going to pre-order though.